Let's get some likes on the stream. Woo! Greetings, fellow Empyreans. I am Ashtarothi, the voice of New Eden, and it is May 7th, YC... Wait, hold on. January, February, March, April, May... Yeah, May 7th, YC126. This is the Eve Universe Show! I hope that that gives you a good idea of how today is going to go. I'm going to start out by first saying I love all of you. Welcome, welcome. Like the stream. Do it early before I embarrass myself further. No, it's been a pretty ongoingly stressful weekend. My son was sick most of the weekend, and you know, a lot of stuff has been going on. And so, like, we had a bit of a thing this morning, and he threw a fit and didn't manage to make it onto the bus today, so he's home today. So I probably will be having a relatively short stream today, but at least my hair looks good. Danny said that, not me. All right, so, but there is some important stuff to go over, both from last Friday and today, and I definitely want to go over that sort of stuff before we get too deep into anything else. Hey, Benjamin, thank you for that subscription. So I did want to cover... The big thing that we got going on right now is we got an update to the nullsec stuff. Lots and lots of cool details out of today's video and dev blog that I do want to talk about. It does leave me with some questions that we will go over, but more importantly, answers a lot of questions that I had, and hopefully I might be able to answer some other questions that people might have extrapolating from the information that was presented today. But before all that, we must first cover politicians divided in wake of Upwell announcement. New Eden news of YC126, May 3rd. Upwell commercials announcing the consortium's future plans have led to political unrest across New Eden. The commercials reveal a new, affordable cloning program. While many details remain unclear, it seems that consciousness transfer to the new clones will be offered in exchange for Upwell labor contracts. The commercials bring to light the truth behind leaked communications between Upwell and the Amar Empire, Kadari State, Galente Federation, and Mimitar Republic. Oh my God. I should get distracted, shouldn't I? Bad Boy Smooth with 20 gifted memberships. Thank you very much. Reactions to the news have been varied, with divisions across different lines in all four governments. Should I wait? I'm glad to hear that, Adam. All right. Let's wait. We can pause. I'll start over. Thank you so much, Bad Boy Smooth. On behalf of Virewolf, Darjark, Juan, I'm not even going to try with the first one. Patrick Price, Synosis, Saint Garjonis, Container Records, Wayne Dowie, Minimax, Revras, Saki, Woozy, Rob. Why do I read people's names? This is embarrassing to all of us. Martin Shimeres. I'm going to go with that. That's where I'm going with that one. Andre Pitakar, Patrick, Nick Mosley, Mike Azariah, the bus driver himself, and Slab Candy on behalf of all of them and myself. Thank you very much to Bad Boy Smooth. But yeah, Adam, very pleased to still be around. Well, I'm just going to let this work its way out. Give everybody time to settle in. I tried to jump into it. See, this is what I get for trying to do like a really smooth like transition. Disaster. I should have known better today. Can you guys hear my son laughing in the background too? I don't even know. I can. We got Mark Roper's. Okay, that's good. We got Mark Roper's hack pack. So the first one came in, and so we finished building the turret this morning. So he now has this cool turret that he can use to shoot things, and we can hack into it and get it to like do different behaviors. It's really cool. I'm very happy we got it. Also, Adam, if you have been gone for a while, make sure to go check out my Returning to Eve watch this first. You heard turd? Turret. Gizmo, you missed, you missed, well, it's still happening. I started trying to read the New Eden News, but then we got to deal with some administrative business. No, I'm pretty tired and distractible today. McGruber. Hey, I do have a question though, guys. Like with this event, I feel like I agree with a lot of people that the loot in this event seems to be a bit lackluster, even at its highest tiers. Anyone have any difference of opinion? Any tips or better understanding of the situation? We've been running. I did successfully run a 4 yesterday. I think it was with Malik. And even then, we only got like 70 million worth of red loot. Yeah, we're going to be talking about the expansion stuff after the New Eden News. Yeah, so we're not giving. So I'll tell you why I'm not giving up on the event. This event is going to go on for another month, and for the rest of the month. And so I think that the chance that CCP could buff the loot, if it continues to be this unpopular, I assume that CCP will either buff the loot or better communicate as to why the top filament is worthwhile. Because the thing is that in the Doctor Who event, the bow tie was only really obtainable in like the top maybe a tier 3 filaments. Like maybe like a couple of people got it from a tier 3 filament. Mostly I only heard of them dropping in the tier 4 combat filament, which was the hardest site, right? So in essence, that became the reason to do all of the other stuff, right? You did tier 1s because that let you build the tier 2s, which let you build the tier 3s, which let you build the tier 4s, which had pieces of items that dropped for 4 billion ISK. That's why you did it all, right? So even as of right now, I don't know what the replacement for the bow tie is for this event. I don't know what is so valuable about tier 4s that would make me want to run them, that would make me want to run them enough to pay the ISK for the filaments. If I was to say wanted to just run them, like let's say I didn't want to do the rest of the event, I just wanted to run tier 4 because I wanted to get that awesome thing, right? The bow tie. So I'm going to buy the filaments from other people. Well, the filaments, I'm going to pay whatever I feel like I need to in order to get the bow tie, as long as I see it reasonable, especially with the rest of the loot that comes out of it, right? So, and then that sets the price for those filaments. You know, I'm not going to pay $1 billion ISK for a filament if I have a 2% chance to get a 5 billion ISK thing, right? I might pay 50 to 100 million ISK, especially if I'm guaranteed to have at least 120 million in red loot, then I'll be willing to pay 100 million ISK for a filament. But I only got 65 million ISK worth of red loot out of that filament, which means that the filament only has a raw value of about 60 million. And that's for tier 3 stuff, right? That material comes out of the tier 3s and whatnot. And so the materials that build that stuff has to be valuable enough to be able to then turn around and sell those filaments for something. And that's what trickles back and trickles back and trickles back. So without something to shoot for in the tier 4 filaments, then there's no reason for people to grind tier 4. There's no reason for people to pay for the filaments. There's no reason for people to buy the parts. There's no reason people to grind those parts. There are no reason for people. You see the problem here, right? So the reason why I'm still doing the event is because I think that is one fix away from it all being solved. And it's still a competition to be able to get to and run tier 4. It's not enough to just want to run tier 4s. These things take a lot of grinding in order to just build them, right? That's why they have to be valuable. So if CCP at any point in the next 3 weeks fixes it so that way it is valuable, then suddenly all of those keys will become valuable. And so as an operation, we are still grinding all of the keys so that way we can get the stuff that we need. You know, the more we do all of the keys, the more we're building up the stuff. I'm not selling any of the material to actually build keys. We're just building up our material to build keys, if that makes sense. So you already sold all your event stuff. So I'm hoping that in the end, it'll become more valuable. But in the meantime, what we have is an event. There might be somebody already running. There are people already. I mean, I was running I was running T4s. My point is that I ran one and felt no compunction to run another because it wasn't necessarily worth it. So here's the thing, though. Like, let's be honest. On the other hand, these are some of the best skins that an event has had in a long time. And so there's a lot of players, including a lot of players in my own group, that are trying to grind the track, right? They're not, I mean, like, if they make a bunch of money in the meantime, that's great, but they're mostly doing it for these skins. They're pretty cool. Yeah, trying to complete the event track. So to that end, I have been running this program where people can come to Dodixie, mostly with the convocation. I've been really doing it to anybody who wants to come and do it. I give you the keys that you need, or the stuff to build the keys that you need, whatever you need to finish your track. If you need to build a specific key, I give you the stuff to build the key. If you need a key in order to run it, or if you just want to run filaments, then you can just run filaments. And all I ask in return is the materials to build more filaments, right? Because that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to build up this engine so that way, you know, in the nature of, you know, I'm about maximizing player engagement with EVE Online and lowering barriers to entry. So if you just want to do the track stuff, just come to me and I will help hook you up in order to be able to progress the track. And several people have already been successfully utilizing this service that I've been providing. And it's been really useful to a lot of people. I've been asking around a lot, and it was very successful during the Doctor Who event. It means that I don't get very much time to run stuff, but that's fine. But so if you need to build keys, if you need keys, let me know. But yeah. And that's why we're continuing to do it, because I want this engine to be continually up and running for people that want it for their tracks. And in the event that this stuff becomes actually valuable some way through this event. We are getting pretty close to when we should start seeing, if we don't already see, estimated values on things, which might help a little bit. But like I said, without anything super fancy in that top set, and let me tell you, a Leshak skin ain't it. A Leshak skin is not a fucking bow tie. Let me just tell you that right now, if CCP is listening. You got to put something good. You got to put something worth a damn, and it's got to be in everybody's faces. Do you know how many people run around with those bow tie suits now? People are still chasing after them. It was the correct thing to put at the end of a challenge like this. You have nothing there right now. That's what needs to get fixed. All right. Unscheduled rant over. I will say that, so they also did remove the Genolution. Not that one. Where's the patch notes? Oh, well, whatever. I don't even have the patch notes up. But they did lower the drop rate of the Genolutions in the Edencom Rex, which, on the one hand, makes this problem even worse. Bad Boy just doesn't want lore. On behalf of Arya, Sismon, Klaus, Samuel Yo, Michael Bailey, Brad, Paddywhack, Braveheart, Glenn Walker, Devil Hill, Emac, Cult Activist, Zeke, Cece, Ryko, Fico, 72, Dwezzle, Stanta, Heckle Tweet, NC Music, Dolo, Da Crackhead, Doug, and Lone Gamer UK. Thank you very much, Bad Boy. You just wanted me to have a coffee break. Okay, thank you. I will say, though, and I do appreciate it very, very much, and everybody who does it gets it, appreciates it, but now it's been a month of you guys being crazy bastards, and unfortunately, I think that, that means that we're still, like, at our limit of emotes. I'm catching this before Danny jumps into it. Because, like, we get to keep the emotes that we want to, but, like, as some fall off, I'm not suggesting anybody do it, but what I will say is that we did get, I think we got Serpentis in here, or we got Sancha in here. Let me check. Yeah. We now have the Sancha emote, which means I think we have all of the major pirate groups now. So, hey, Satonia. All right. So, yeah, they did they changed the patch, or in the patch, they changed the drops of the Genos. And on the one hand, it does exasperate all of the problems that I just talked about, right? Like, it was like, to a lot of people, they felt like this event wasn't really very valuable. And then they took the big valuable thing that people were getting. But here's the problem with that, okay? Genos are valuable because they're rare. That's why I was like, I think these might be dropping too much, right? If they drop too much, then they're going to crash in their value and then nobody gets anything out of them. Now, granted, we all get easier Genos, but like if there's like 10,000 times more C8, whatever, 4s out there, then that's not actually going to make it so that you can get the most out of the Genos, because CA1 and CA2 is what makes the Genos the most strong. So, like, it's not like there's going to be more full sets of Genos out there. It's just going to be that the Genos that you did loot from the event is now worthless, right? So that's why it's actually a good thing that CCP fixed the drop rate of the Genos. You haven't missed anything too important, Punch. But at the same time, that still leaves us with that problem that they need to fix, which is why are people running this event in the first place? Why, if you want the value of the stuff to be the stuff to build the keys for higher tiers, then what is so valuable about those tier 4s and potentially even tier 3s that makes it worthwhile? Yeah, I did get an early start. Sheesh for the guinea pigs. All right, hold on. I'll be right back. You can see my cartoon jammies too. Oh. All right. Oh. Do you have anything to say to the people? Do you have anything to say? Thank you. Thank you for the likes, comments, and subscribes. We love you. All right. That's enough animal abuse for the morning. Hi. Hi there, helper. All right.
It's never enough.
This conversation, this stream is officially off the rails.
It's never enough until I get to
All right. Aw. Can you help put him back? Carefully?
Sure.
All right. Say hi to everybody.
Hi. Hi.
Be careful with him. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much to both Sheesh and Bad Boy, and honestly, the rest of you for putting up with all of this shenanigans. Should we try again? All right. Here is your new news for May 3rd. Hold on, I did this again. Hold on. January, February, March, April, May. May. It is May. Okay, I keep on. Okay, never mind. All right, here we go with your New Eden News for May 3rd, YC126. Politicians divided in wake of Upwell announcement. Upwell commercials announcing the consortium's future plans have led to political unrest across New Eden. The commercials reveal a new, affordable cloning program. While many of the details remain unclear, it seems that consciousness transferred to the new clones will be offered in exchange for Upwell labor contracts. The commercials bring to light the truth behind leaked communications between Upwell and the Amar Empire, Caldari State, Galente Federation, and Mimitar Republic. Reactions to the news has been varied, with divisions across different lines in all four governments. Galente Federation. President Agard welcomes innovation. President Agard was the first to respond, praising Upwell's program at Senate debate. Many present applauded as the president lauded Upwell's, quote, innovative use of technology to offer a bright future to the people of New Eden, end quote. She went on to describe how the new cloning technologies could offer a way out for the Federation's disenfranchised. Labor populist critics of the program have accused the president of attempting to head off a mounting unemployment crisis. According to the labor populists, Agard's Autonomy Industry for Democracy Act has resulted in lost jobs throughout the Federation. They now accuse her of embracing Upwell's plan for a quick fix to this issue without having considered the need for an ethical safeguards. New conspiracy just dropped. You ready, guys? All right. Senator President Agard. The problem is that President Agard, as I've talked about in the past, is the president that 2 months before her presidency was assassinated. That's right. In the early presidential election, the original election day was attacked by simultaneous terrorist attacks that threatened the lives of all but two of the presidential candidates. And President Agard was one of them. She was killed. She was restored from a backup clone, but there was potentially lost memories, lost time because of she basically lost anything that happened to her from the time of her last backup, right? And then she goes on to win the presidency. At the same time, we also see that Lidai and Quaif are working together in order to potentially create soft drink-induced nanocontrollers to manipulate populations. And Quaif is then later accused of using that technique to sway senatorial elections in the exact same election. Both Lidai is strongly associated with the Upwell consortium, right? So as part of the PKN grouping. So it is interesting that the president or the politician that is the most behind Upwell is also kind of the most likely to have been a plant by Upwell. But let's move on. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but that's my new tinfoil. Ready? Caldari State, plan condemned by Ocean Faction Megacorps. Official communications were sent up to the workers of Ishikone, Hasiota, and Wiakomi megacorporations 2 weeks ago, calling Upwell's new program, quote, a betrayal of Caldari principles. Following the release of Upwell's recruitment commercials, they have reasserted their condemnation. Quote, Upwell's proposals do not honor the people they would recruit, but reduce them to mere cogs. Duty to your Caldari corporation and loyalty to the state remains the clearest path towards an honorable life. These principles are directly incompatible with Upwell colonization. These mega corporations, all members of the Ocean Faction Alliance, have begun lobbying to ban Upwell new clone transfers ahead of the Chief Executive Board hearing next week. No official statements have been forthcoming from the board so far. In contrast to the Ocean Faction's rejection of the program, members of the Forest Faction, Lidai, CBD, and Nuegahuvi have been meeting with Upwell representatives to discuss details. It seems that likely that that'll be up to the Mountain Faction, Suikavesta, and Kalikiota to break the tie. So, yeah, as I said, Lidai, CBD, Nuegahuvi, they've always had strong connections with Upwell. Especially recently. Mountain factions, Suikavesta and Kalikiota are basically the two strongest mega corporations. And so we'll have to watch what the Caldari come down on coming up soon. That being said, I do find it very interesting that the argument being made by the Ocean faction isn't that this is somehow, bad. The slavery aspect of it, or the being reduced to mere cogs, is necessarily the bad part of it. It's that, hey, wait a minute, this is our cogs. It's duty to the state and duty to your family and duty to your corporation. That is the, you gotta be working for us. You can't take our workers, says the Ocean faction. Mimitar Republic. Samatar remains neutral as tribes divided. A rare public assembly was held by the Tribal Council to debate Upwell's program. Sebestor Tribal Chief Akasa Midgelar implored the Republic to, quote, embrace the opportunities this new technology offers. This was met with outrage by Brutor Tribal Chief, Ukumi Pol, who declared, quote, we did not cast aside the yoke of imperial oppression to voluntarily place a noose made by corporate greed around our necks. The Starkminer chief, Huron Satol, backed by Brutor, added that the Upwell initiative was a threat to Matar identity. Barokior chief Isardson Urbald rejected the Starkminer's claims, stating that, quote, the spirit of Matar is inside us no matter what face we wear, end quote. Samator Maltushakor remained neutral throughout the proceedings. His failure to condemn the plan outright has been criticized by members of the Brutor and Starkminer tribes, his traditional supporters. After a long and heated debate, no conclusion was reached by the Tribal Council. A second session will take place behind closed doors in the coming days. This is kind of interesting. So, Malatushakor is a Brutor tribesman. Like, that's where he came from. So, that's one of the reasons why him not siding with the Brutors kind of stands out here. Another thing that I find really interesting is that the Varokior are not only the more spiritual of all of the Mimitar, but they are, I believe, the first of the Mimitar elders to have embraced the idea of the spirit transfer. So this idea of like the changing of consciousness, many masks, blah, blah, blah. So like, the spiritualism of the Varokior seems to match with this idea that like it's our soul, not our face that matters. What I find, the other piece that's worth noting is that Akasa Midgelar is, I believe, the daughter of Karen Midgelar, I think was her name, but she was the former person, in charge of I think Samatar in charge of the Mimitar Republic, and Maltushakor kind of led the effort to oust her. And a little while back, Akasa was becoming very vocal of Malatushakor and his regime, especially as we were going through like the events around Turner. But recently, as the industrial efforts have moved forward, and he's kind of announced the new plans for the Mimitar industry and military, she seems to have become more supportive of him. So, it seems like there's definitely much more of a divide within the Caldari than in the Mimitar, but it almost feels like it could be that Maltushakor is being drawn out politically away from his traditional supporters, which may make him vulnerable to future criticism. Niece of the previous head. Got it. I think that's right. Amar Empire. Concerned houses await Empress's ruling. The most notable absence from the Upwell debate is the voice of Empress Katis I, who is yet to make an announcement on the topic. According to official channels, Empress is, quote, considering all possible implications, both spiritual and fiscal. Meanwhile, the Amar royal houses have largely positioned themselves in opposition to the new technology. Lord Aram Ardashapur has led the charge with an impassioned proclamation of the value of tradition, stating that, quote, the faithful know that grace is the only reward worth pursuing, end quote. This statement has received support in the houses of Khorazor, Sorum, and Kador. House Tashmurkhan remains silent on the issue. Only the Khanid have come out in favor of the program. The Khanid Kingdom even hosted an official delegation of Upwell representatives at the Royal Palace of Khanid Prime. Sources inside of the palace reports that the nature of the cloning technology was discussed and found to be amenable. So here we go. This is interesting. First of all, the Khanid Kingdom, there's two things that's interesting about the Khanid Kingdom here. Khanid is the group that is the most closely tied to Lidai. This name that keeps on popping up, right? So Khanid Kingdom has very close economic ties with Lidai. And actually, the other person that has close economic ties with the state is Empress Cadis I, right? Herself. They both do. But Khanid mostly has his connections through Lidai. It's also worth noting that the King Khanid is deeply suspected of being having illegally cloned himself. So the idea that he might be amenable to cloning technology is also kind of interesting. But what I think might be happening here, Ardashapur is very much the most traditional of them, of the royal houses most of the time, with Sorum being Sorum and Ardashapur working together on dealing with like the Amatar, right? Mostly Ardashapur runs the Amatar, but Sorum has been giving them a lot of support. It's interesting that House Tash, I mean, obviously it's not interesting, but it's pretty expected that House Tashmurkhan would remain silent on the issue if the Empress is silent because that's her house. But remember, like, the Empress has been playing a power game to lower the power levels of her opponents and raise the power levels of her own house. So Ardashapur and Sorum have long been critical of the Empress, if anybody is. And so kind of overwhelming them and stuff, and putting them kind of out of position has been a kind of thing that she has done in how she divided up the empire, in the way that she freed the slaves and put out the policy to free slaves. You know, these are policies that have weakened her political rivals. And it seems to me that and she's also an incredibly shrewd businesswoman and tactician. So I think that what we're seeing here is she's staying quiet because she's letting her political adversaries put their foot out, right? So that way, when she comes down and comes down differently on the matter, they now have to either fall in line with the Empress or reject the Empress, which neither of those are good solutions in the Amar Empire, right? So she might be setting them up for future political games. Capsuleers-led exploration of collapsed conduits underway according to SOCT. That's the event. Edencom teams are yet to report back from abyssal explorations. That's the event. Paragon hosts artists retreat in Orifay. Paragon hosts artists retreat in Orifay is directly tied to the Skinner system that's coming. Galente Primacy, responsible for thwarted attack into Intaki Metro Service. And Galente Primacy is the new radical terrorist group within the Galente. You see them associated in the home fronts. And Concord issues condemnation of Ashes of Turner as group grows in popularity beyond Republic borders. Ashes of Turner is another one of the groups that was introduced as part of the home fronts. What's interesting about this is that the Ashes of Turner, we've been seeing them pop up more in Caldari space than in hey, lazy one. We've been seeing Ashes of Turner pop up more in Caldari space in recent news than in Mimitar space, which is really weird. But it's also worth noting that, especially thanks to the Deathless, the communication and the transmission between the Mimitar underground criminal organizations and the Caldari underground criminal organizations, these guys are very well connected at this point, right? The Deathless originally started tying together some of the Thucker criminal groups with some of the lower criminal groups within the state, and then later on, of course, uniting the Guri Malakam and the Deathless Circle with the Havoc expansion. So the fact that we're seeing dissonance from the Mimitar Republic, or like dissonant thought from the Mimitar Republic showing up in the state, I don't think that that's an accident. But we'll have to keep an eye on all of this, and see whether or not any of these theories check out. If you have any theories of your own, please make sure to put it in the comments down below or in the chat if you're watching live. But if you're not watching live, this is it I've got for you for this New Eden News here on May 3rd, YC126. I've been Astrothi, the voice of New Eden. Thank you all for watching. Thank you to my supporters, and until next time, I'll see you in space. All right. There we go. How is that, guys? That was good. Let us also talk about, real quick, exploit notification extending abyssal timers. Okay, this came out also, I think, on Friday. Effective immediately, it is considered an exploit to extend the amount of time capsulers have to complete Abyssal Dead Space. Abyssal Dead Space is an intended 20-minute expiration timer where a player's ship and capsule will be destroyed at the end of it. Any methods to extend this timer to achieve a safety or alleviate the dangers of losing your ship or loot is considered an exploit. So, did you miss the subject in the title? No, we haven't even... I'm going over everything else before we go over this. Was about time this was labeled as an exploit. Yeah, so let me just explain really quick what this means, because I've known about this since basically the Abyss was introduced, and I've talked to CCP about this a long time back, but the issue was that like it wasn't seen as a big enough of a deal for them to do anything about, and I guess it seemed time to do it. So here's how this works, okay? When the Abyss first was created, there was a problem, which was that you could get to the final gate and jump through it. And while you're in the jump tunnel, for the first half of your jump tunnel experience, you're still in the abyssal pocket, which meant you could actually get into jump, and then the timer would end and it would kill you, even though you were supposed to be safe. You finished, right? So to fix this, to be fair to people, they could have just left it be that way. Like, oh no, if you're not out of the jump tunnel, SOL, right? But they didn't. They wanted to make it better for everybody. So what they did was they made it so that when you were in the jump tunnel, it could not destroy you. But this introduced a new problem. The jump tunnel, the jump conduit that leads you out of the system is mechanically the same as the ones that lead you in between places within the abyssal pockets. In other words, the last jump, if they made a change to the final jump conduit, it would affect all jump conduits. So after they did that, you could, like, let's say I was in the second pocket, right? And I see that, like, I get the first pocket, it's a giant potato. It takes me, 9.5 minutes to finish it. And then I get to the next pocket, and it's a second potato. It takes me 9.5 minutes to finish it. I've got 1 minute left. I know I'm not making it, right? What you could do is you could wait until there's like 1 second left in the timer and then jump through the gate. So that way, while you're jumping, the timer ends. You're immune, so it doesn't kill you. And you end up in the third pocket without a timer, right? That's how this works. And then you can just take as much time as you want and finish the last pocket and then get out. This is a problem, but the thing is that, like, the fix that they put in to make it so it wasn't already killing everybody was a relatively quick fix, which is why they were able to do it. More complicated solutions would be a lot of extra work for basically nothing. So, from CCP's perspective, it's like, well, we got to continue to monitor this to see whether or not it's a real problem or not, right? If we say something about it, then people will know about it. If we try to do something about it, that's a lot of dev time to do it. So now, as of last week, doing that is considered an exploit. And, like, you got to think about it, especially to those people that are like, well, if it's in the game. Like, it's in the game to be nice to people, to make it so that you don't die when you're trying to leave the conduit, okay? So, like, this is the kind of thing that, like, just don't do it. Just don't do it. It would be funny if you ran out your timer and then left and you blew up immediately upon leaving the abyss. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but if people were curious about what it is that was making this happen, that's basically it. But it is an exploit, and now it is declared to be an exploit. And to be honest, I'm glad that it is. And I'm actually honestly glad that they're not doing anything else about it, right? Because, as I said, I wouldn't want another ounce of a dev effort to go into trying to fight the player base from doing this, right? Like, let's just be happy that we don't get our ships blown up when we're jumping out and do the right thing. This is the correct way to deal with this, right? Just say, don't do it, and now we can't do it. It's no longer legal play. Okay. We got our answers, boys. We got our answers, boys. Now, today we got a massive dev blog and video, 10-minute long video about Equinox. A lot of the stuff that has been going on, obviously when we found out about Equinox and they first put out their page, they gave us a lot of great information. We covered it, I think, about a week ago, maybe even 2 at this point. But we finally got a major blog that goes over a lot of the details and answers a lot of questions. Leaves me with a few more, but I think I will be able to kind of help walk us through this, and we can sort out a lot of what we should be expecting in Equinox. So, rather than read all of this, we're going to play the video and pause it as necessary. Because really, I've checked, the video and the text match pretty closely, so good.
In the Equinox expansion, we want to make nullsec space have more meaning for players.
First and foremost, this thing here, I can't tell right now, but Malik noticed in one of the pictures from the previous video that we were looking at that the ship that looks like this was labeled the Avalanche, which is the freighter. So what we're looking at here is very likely the freighter that is now coming.
This is a combination of allowing you more customization options for content and activities, as well as creating topology. Planet.
Topology is a big piece to this, okay? What is topology? So as a scout, I can, as a scout in the military, like, topology is very, very important to me. Topology is basically the lay of the land, right? You know, so you've got territory, which is, you know, the actual area, and then you have the topology, which is like where all the hills are, all the valleys, all the ravines, all the spurs and draws and all that sort of stuff. Mountains, cliffs, topology, right? Different areas of land are different. And so in that sense, one of the biggest problems that they have in the current SOV system is that most, if not all, of SOV space can be pretty much considered homogeneous, right? Any given system, it's all, the geography. Yes. It's all fungible, right? If somebody takes your systems in space, you just set up basically identically in another area. Yes, AKA the geography. Good point, lazy one. But the reason why I specified it that way is because geography can be often seen as like on a bigger scale, you know? Topology, when I think of topology, and this may just be because I was a scout, I think of like the smaller scale, like, you know, moving over the terrain. You know, this is geographically mountainous, but within the mountainous region, there are cliffs and cuts and valleys and spurs and all that kind of stuff. And that's the topology. That's how the actual bumps work, right? And how you can move over it and how you can utilize it. That's what's important here. So, and this idea of updating topology has been what CCP has been working on since 2019. This is it, weather and topology. The idea is that prior to all of these changes, prior to scarcity, prior to invasions, prior to all of this stuff, every system has been, you know, like big things can happen in certain systems, but the next day it's all kind of goes back to being the way it was, right? All, as CCB Hillmar once said, the entirety of the universe was generated once and it has never changed since. And the whole goal of this was to make it so that there is change and importance to the various different, you know, systems and land. So, you know, we introduced metaliminal storms, and we have the invasions take away specific systems and reroute things. New stargates are built. You know, all these different things. Faction warfare is overhauled to make it so that depending on the state of faction warfare changes what kind of sites are available. Insurgencies make it so that temporarily systems can be modified and made more corrupt or more secure. These are all ways of making it so that there's a living universe. You can't just sit in one system and have it always be the same day in and day out. There's now weather and topology. And this is another big thing of what they were talking about doing for nullsec 2 years ago, which is the idea of terraforming. If space has topology, then there's got to be a way for you to use that topology and for you to modify that topology. And that's a big part of what this expansion is all about. Yes, I will be. Yeah, we'll be looking at all of that stuff, Gizmo. Don't worry.
Planets in a star system will now be integral to the function of that system and how useful the system is strategically. The Upwell Consortium has been a huge part of nullsec since the introduction of City.
CCP Trash Panda is amazing, by the way. If this is your first time ever meeting him, he's amazing. Write him, you know, jot it down in your head. Whenever you see Trash Panda, good things are happening.
Citadels in 2016. Now, we're proud to be presenting the next steps in transforming nullsec from a space you live into a home, providing more tools and content to allow the inhabitants to shape the space to their needs, by improving mechanisms, streamlining ownership, and allowing more customization options for activities and content within your empires. We are creating the foundations for the future of nullsec, a space that means and matters more to you. With the Equinox suite, Upwell is introducing major new structures: the Orbital Skyhook, Sovereignty Hub, and Metanox Moondrill.
From a UI perspective, our...
So this leads me to one of my questions before we let CCP Mercury jump in. Like, and as we go forward, I feel like there's a meaning to this, and some of it does get answered, but like, I find it interesting that there is no name for the Skyhook or the territorial claim device, right? The Metanox Moondrill, the Athanor Refinery. There is no like name for it. It's just the Skyhook. Now that may liken the fact that there's a POCO, but honestly, I think that this suggests that these things are going to be seen as more like a feature of those places rather than as a structure that you get to put down wherever you want, right? So in the same way as we learn in a little bit, like these Skyhooks replace the POCOs, which have a very limited places where you're able to put it. So it's less like you're putting down a structure, and it's more like this is the Skyhook for this planet. So they don't have individual names. I don't know. This is just one of those things that I keep thinking about.
Our focus is on enhancing in-space interactions, reducing friction, and ensuring smooth usability when engaging with these structures. With dedicated in-space UI, you can seamlessly deposit fuel and hack objectives, all while accessing crucial information at a glance.
So, what are we seeing here? This is actually really important. This is the first important thing. This Raven is here. We assume that this is the Raven. It looks like that's the Raven. Hold on a second. Let me actually move it over here so I can look closer at this. Move you guys over here. So, actually, see if I can do this.
Deposit fuel.
Mode. I bump this up to like stupid high quality.
And hack objectives. With dedicated in-space UI,
I can't really see it that well, but okay. So this Raven, I'm almost sure that that's the account. So this Raven is looking at the Skyhook and has the Skyhook reagent silo, and it shows how full it is. At this point, it's not very full, but it says begin link, or maybe that's a progress bar. Yeah, that might be a progress bar. So this is a button, begin link. That's part of the UI in space. You can actually see the Raven's cursor. Hold on. Come on. There we go. So the Raven's cursor begins down here. Hold on. Raven's cursor begins down
With dedicated
here,
in-space UI,
and then comes
you
up,
can seamlessly
clicks,
deposit fuel
and it says, your ship has started the link process with Skyhook reagent silo.
and hack objectives, all while accessing
And now we see a timer that shows, I think it's 8 minutes and 30 seconds saying linking.
crucial information at a glance. This streamlined interface will empower you
This is not an ESS hacking, okay? Because that gets talked about later. This is actually just the normal method. This is just a person who belongs here that is accessing the reagent thing, presumably so that way they can take those reagents to where they need to go, right? So in the same way that you go to the POCOs that exist and you open it up and then you drag and drop it, there's this whole process that you have to link with it, and it gives it time to pull everything up off the planet. And we're going to watch that happen over as we go. So this is not the hacking portion.
you to interact with these structures effortlessly, without breaking immersion.
The orbital skyhook will be required to extract resources from a planet. With each new resource, power, workforce, reagents, there will be planet archetypes that can only produce that type of resource. This means that some...
We're getting there, Space Ghost. So here we go. Look at this. So this is the other part. Imagine, okay, so you've linked it, right? This is what's happening in that 8 minutes while you're waiting for the link to happen.
resource. This means that some systems with an abundance of one type of planet, but none of the others, will have limitations on what upgrades the system can provide. In terms of Upwell's new technology, the orbital skyhook will be the anchor, extracting resources from the planet. Sovereign owners of a star system will be able to deploy these giant structures as a replacement for the customs office. Firstly replacing, but retaining the functionality of customs offices as a resource interface for planetary industry. And secondly, opening up an extraction of new resources introduced with Equinox: power, workforce, reagents.
Power comes from sun.
Okay, so question number 1 answered. POCOs, these things replace the POCO on planets that they are on, okay? What does this mean for POCOs? Well, first of all, planetary customs offices are something that player groups can deploy on top of planets to control the PI, the planetary interaction materials that are being pulled off of the planet, and tax that, potentially, right? That's what it's there for. So these will replace the physical structure and the functionality of the POCOs in sovereign systems. Low-sec systems, high-sec systems, and wormholes will retain full use of POCOs as we know them. Okay?
Suns, plasma, and storm planets. It's a hard limitation.
This does not... None of this is a change to any PI as we know it. Okay? So PI is going to be, as far as we know, exactly the same. And on top of that, there is these 3 new resources that are being extracted, okay? And we're going to learn more about those as we go on.
Workforce, reagents.
Power comes from suns, plasma, and storm planets. It's a hard limitation that determines how many upgrades your sovereignty hub can unlock. Workforce consists of people, specialists, and tools that are required to run these upgrades. It's a softer limitation, and you can move them from system to system, although some conditions apply. Reagents are 2 new fuel types, essentially, that come from lava and ice planets. You need them to keep the upgrade's lights on, and they're also used in the Metanox moon drill. They're freely exchangeable, so the economic types might want to pay attention to whole new markets opening up. Perceptive types will notice that power is a bit of baseline, but the other 2, especially the other 2, have potential for disruption. Messing with an enemy workforce by attacking a sovereignty hub's workforce transfer complex, or a workforce providing skyhook directly, or starving them of an essential reagent prior to an attack, are now viable stratagems, and new meaningful conflict drivers for raiders and attackers.
With these...
Okay. This is important. Power comes from suns, plasma planets, and storm planets. and our baseline. We're going to see more information as we go on, but basically that means that, like, so all Upwell upgrades require power, right? And I assume that the sun's power provides basically the baseline for the base upgrades, which means a system that doesn't have good power sources may not be able to have very many upgrades, okay? But in addition to that, you have workforce and reagents, and this is where we've kind of begun to answer our questions of what things are. Power either remains internal to, I believe that power will remain internal to the system itself, which means systems that will only be able to be upgraded as far as they can be powered using the star, the storm planets, etc. Personnel can be automatically shipped from one place to another via the system hub. We'll look at that. Like, there are certain upgrades that will allow transference of population. You can export population to different places. Whereas reagents are going to have to be physically moved from where they are extracted to where they need to come, to where they need to end up. So power seems to be a local limiter. Personnel seems to be a logistical, like making sure that all of your supply lines are lined up. Where reagents is something that has to be physically moved from one place to another. There are two major reagents. There's one from and one from each planet, right? It's ice and lava. So there's one reagent that comes from lava and one reagent that comes from ice. These are necessary to continually be stocked up in these iHubs or whatever, territorial hubs, whatever. I can't remember the actual name for them yet or right now, but those will be required to be fueled up in order to be able to have them running. But, and they said that this is the other thing that we've been thinking, or that I assumed would be true, that we now have had confirmed, which is that the Metanox moon drills require reagents, which means if you want, these groups that think that they're going to have a Metanox moon drill in LowSec, amongst all of the other problems, those Metanox moon drills now require these resources that can only be extracted from particular planets in Sovereignty Null. So, yay.
These resources extracted, both power and workforce will become available to use in the Sovereignty Hub. However, reagents, both magmatic gas and superionic ice, will need to be collected and distributed.
With the introduction of colony resources, you can now tap into the wealth of resources available on planets within your territory. You can easily access information about power, workforce, and reagent distribution through the agency window under the Resource Harvesting tab.
So this sun was listed as having a modest amount of power. Yeah, there's only two types of reagents. So when the big guys in the game will have the planets needed to make all three. That's true, Brad, but they're not going to have all of that in one place. They're actually going to have to be like, okay, well, this system is the system that we're extracting all of our people from, or like our people come from these places and they have to go to these other places. And so you're going to hear them talk about this too, but that makes more places of vulnerability, right? If you've got planets that you're using to extract personnel, those are skyhooks that can come under attack. And if I can shut down your ability to continue to support your iHub, I can shut down your iHub. And if I can shut down your iHub, I can shut down your Sinojammer. So now I can attack your Sinojammer without attacking the system with the Sinojammer in it. If you don't understand how powerful that is, I don't know what to tell you.
You can search and filter for specific resources, their availability and quantity, empowering you to make informed decisions about expanding your sovereign space and target valuable star systems.
As power and workforce will be required for sovereignty upgrades, there is fresh opportunity for players looking to sabotage and create more disruptive type gameplay by choosing to destroy the skyhooks. These structures will behave very similarly to medium Upwell structures with a single shield reinforcement and damage caps on both armor and hull. Skyhooks will not stop working while reinforced. We've also created a new form of hit and run gameplay around these structures by allowing you to hack the structures in the style of an ESS heist, which will allow you to steal resources.
You know what? I take it all back. I think you're right. I think this is the hacking. I take it all back. That might be the hacking. That might be the hacking, because they show it again here, and you can see that they're scrammed at the same time. They can't cloak, they can't tether, and they are scrammed. But I thought that they were doing. I thought they meant a hacking module. Am I looking at this again and I'm understanding it differently? I am. Okay, that is the hack. Thank you, Satonia, for correcting me. I apologize. I was wrong. So hold on. Does that mean that if I am, let me ask you that. If I am the correct person, do I have to wait the 8 minutes, or is normal access of it instantly? Do I have to access it the same way if I own this skyhook? Do I have to wait out the timer? That's my question. Well, I'm asking Satonia.
New form of hit and run gameplay around these structures by allowing you to hack the structures in the style of an ESS heist, which will allow you to steal resources from them and sell them off.
Normal access is
Reagents in
instant.
the
Thank you.
skyhook will also
100% wrong. I apologize to everybody for misinformation.
have a period of maturation within the structure to ensure that there is always some form of vulnerability from the theft gameplay. And
Sorry, I got distracted because of all of those interruptions. But basically what they're saying is that there's maturation. There's time that things have to be in there, so that way there's always something kind of vulnerable to be attacked. In the same way that like ESSs have a 3-hour window time.
due to the attention these new structures have created, they'll draw the notice of local pirate forces, so be wary of warping to these structures in undefended haulers. The concept behind the introduction of the Sovereignty Hub is to refresh and enhance the existing sovereignty management and system upgrade mechanics, and gameplay in player-controlled nullsec.
My next question, though, if you really want to go down this road, Satonia, is can you dock in either of these structures, this one or the skyhook? I still can't figure out whether or not we're going to be able to dock in them.
Replacing the existing sovereignty structures, the territorial claim unit and the infrastructure hub, with a brand new central management structure called the Sovereignty Hub. The key feature of the Sovereignty Hub is sovereignty upgrades. These upgrades serve as the primary means through which you can improve systems you control, providing value to the owner of the space and creating drive to capture space, which in turn is intended to ignite territorial conflicts. Sovereignty upgrades currently exist in-game, however these new upgrades will offer more meaningful choices.
I love the fact that if you look at all these details on here, I'm reasonably sure that you'll be able to visually look at one of these hubs and see what upgrades are on.
Your passion for controlling space while creating interesting choices about how best to utilize and specialize the systems you own. One example of the improved Sov upgrades is the addition of a new, harder combat anomaly for the pirate detection array upgrade. Furthermore, all of these sites detected by this array will now have a chance to escalate with the possibility of an officer escalation and a combat site for capitals. Another upgrade will allow the detection of previously undiscovered ores, so you can choose what minerals in your system will provide and potentially reduce manufacturing bottlenecks.
For those of you in managerial roles, a dedicated interface offers the ability to install and prioritize upgrades. Here, you can design your desired layouts for upgrades.
All right. So here's our first clue, or here's our big one, okay? We have population transport. So that's what I was talking about how, see how it says workforce transport exporting? This structure is exporting 10,000 workforce units to Sovereignty Hub F7 in PRX TAC 16. So basically, this Sovereignty Hub in AS TAC XY1 has skyhooks in play that are harvesting workforce. That workforce is being transported to this Sovereignty Hub. And then this Sovereignty Hub, through this upgrade, is transporting those personnel to a different system, presumably one that doesn't have a temperate planet or something. This is what I meant by personnel is going to be done kind of just by logistics, upgrades and stuff, where reagents are going to have to be physically moved, I assume. We can also see that it has 2 different fuels, and each of those fuels have different timers, and each of these items have different costs in power, personnel, and reagents, including a startup cost and a state. You can also see that they have a priority list, so you can probably move them up and down the priority list. and they ran out of power by number 6, so it's not powered at the moment.
Monitor resources available to the Sovereignty Hub, and manage workforce transport efficiently. This interface provides a centralized hub for strategic decision-making, allowing managers to optimize the territory effectively.
So they're saying here, okay, well, rather than export personnel, we're now going to import personnel from the Sovereignty Hub in PG Tech 1.2.
Additionally, all players within a Sov-holding
and now we can see that in the Alliance, here's the overview of sovereignty, and we can see that there's this much power generated with an increase of 10K. There's this much workforce generated with a reduction of 5.5K. Upgrades online to 165, claim systems 89, skyhooks linked 121. And we can see that this, this is like the updates. So this is like your news, right? So this structure is online. This structure has been reinforced. This structure was destroyed. This one has upgrades online, etc. And then we also see that there's sovereignty projects underneath it.
Alliance can now track Alliance progress, receive updates, and gain insights into their Sov-space activities through the Corporation window. We've revamped the Alliance tab, dedicating a section specifically to sovereignty. Our goal here is to
and we can see claimed systems. Gemini is 3 constellations, 3 solar systems, Cobalt Edge 3 and 8, Oasa 1 and 2. Now, I will say that, and it says the reagent planets. I'm going to say this right now. The details here are not right. Okay, like these planets don't necessarily exist. Like this is using dummy data. So it was already noted on Reddit. It's like, oh God, does this mean that they're rebalancing what planets there are? No, they're not changing anything about the planets that exist right now. Any discrepancy that you see here is because they're working with whatever. You're right. It is Exotria. Is that a place? Either way. I'm kind of kidding. So this is all just dummy data.
strike a balance between clarity, accessibility, and engaging aesthetics. By incorporating table layouts for easy sorting, introducing filters for enhanced research, and integrating
the filters that we saw here are power consumed, min or max, workforce exported. I assume it's either exported or imported. Upgrades could be online, offline, online, etc. And so it's like, okay, well, I want systems that consume at minimum this, at maximum this, etc., etc. And then like anything, I could also maybe filter it so that way anything that's going to run out of super ionic ice or magnetic gas in the next period of time, that's the ones I want to show. I want to see only iHubs, or not iHubs, but only sovereignty hubs that will run out of reagents in the next 12 hours, something like that. These are all things that we can filter for now.
enhanced research and integrating graphical data representation for items.
And here we can see that the Sovereignty Hub in 23 Tech AJH has upgrades. The upgrades are divided into mineral, combat, and what looks like a keep star. So what this tells me is that while the upgrades are changing, and likely how we get upgrades is changing, what is not changing is the kinds of upgrades. And this ties into what they were saying earlier, right? Because one of the upgrades was a combat upgrade, and one of the upgrades was a mining upgrade. And these were just examples of combat and mining upgrades that we could have. So in this case, we have combat, industrial, and strategic. But rather than that being based on how much you're ratting or how much you're mining or whatever, it's based on these upgrades, which are based on power, etc. So you can't just have every single thing ratted up to 5 in all of the systems that you want to rat in, because that isn't sufficient. You also have to provide the power and the reagents and the infrastructure required to keep those upgrades going and decide which of these upgrades you wish to have within these subcategories.
Such as
one of the questions that I do have is the type of star going to matter, like I originally thought, or is it just the power from the star is dependent on the kind of star? Or will certain upgrades only be available for certain stars? I could have been completely wrong with that.
Resource allocation and fuel consumption, we aim to deliver an interface that not only informs but captivates, ensuring you stay engaged and up to date about the state of your territory.
Equinox
This goes back to what I was saying in the previous dev blog, which is like CCP speaks very, very highly of their UI updates. It's not only educates, but what was it? Hold on.
Captivates, ensuring we aim to deliver an interface that not only informs but captivates.
Not only informs, but captivates. That is, look, she's doing great work. This whole team is doing great. I love all this stuff, but like, that is some corporate BuzzFeed. My like inner software developer just goes, "Oh no!" It's like
Ensuring you stay engaged and up to date about the state of your territory.
Equinox will also introduce a new deployable structure, the Metanox Moon Drill. This structure can be deployed at moons in low-sec, null-sec, and wormhole space, and is fueled by some of the new reagents.
and is fueled by the new reagents. So get your supply lines ready, because you're gonna need them.
Metanox Moon Drill will slowly collect the resources obtained from mining and refining moonals. Although the Metanox is less efficient than if the resources were manually collected using an Athanor or Tartara, this allows small alliances and corporations which are more aggressor focused but do not have the manpower to mine moons the ability to still utilize them. For the groups that do have the manpower, they can focus their attention on the high value moons while the Metanox takes care of the low value ones. Metanox moon drills are vulnerable to attacks, only having a single short reinforcement time. If they are reinforced, then any materials inside them are trapped inside, allowing aggressors the opportunity to provoke an engagement or loot the resources for themselves. If they manage to destroy the structure successfully, aggressors will be able to deploy their own Metanox in its place.
This new technology
Okay, so this thing passively extracts over time, right? However, it has a single short, we don't know what short means, reinforcement timer. As soon as you hit that reinforcement timer, it seems like it pauses and it can you can no longer pull the stuff out of the structure. It is now anti, right? In the second fight, if that structure is destroyed, all of its resources drop. Now, this is really interesting because it makes it so that the raiders or whatever can come in and attack it. But if you think about it, like those resources will have to get pulled out as well. It's a whole operation. And as they pointed out, somebody can just drop their own moon drill, but they'll have to defend it just as much. So this is what we were talking about before, where it's like, for most people, honestly, the Athanor or the Tatara is going to be what you want, right? You want to give your people something to mine. You're going to want to, have kind of a lower footprint, and you're going to need a full-fledged structure that you can dock in and operate with. With this, you're going to probably spend more, get less, and have to spend reagents. But hey, it's passive. It's gonna be interesting to see. Like they're theorizing how people will deploy these. I'm going to be very interested to see who gets away with using this stuff. Is Snuff going to stop binding altogether? Are they going to expand their moon empire? I don't really know anymore. But like the thing is that, let's say Snuff does like put this thing on every R64. At that point, that means that it might be reasonable to give them at least some kind of harassment. I don't know. We still don't have a lot of the details about how much these things are going to cost, and that's a big piece to it.
technology suite from Upwell will make where you are in the universe matter. The tech allows you to really specialize the systems you call home, and then move workers around on your whim. To make the best use of the Equinox suite, you will have to plan ahead and be aware of possible attack vectors. For example, a system might have a high power potential, but there aren't many workforce sources nearby, and it could easily be cut off. Would you rather that scenario? Or a little hub in a corner that won't be as good, but more easily defensible? Also, which systems will specialize in what types of upgrades? If you can't have them all in one place, how will you lay them out? Equinox will create opportunities for raiding, trade, and betrayal, high-level specialization of specific systems for mining or harassment, using Metanox moon drills to bait fights, or on a massive scale to make tons of ISK, Players will be able to tweak systems to appease their needs, like specifically mining isogen. I'm a sneaky wormholer type, so getting lucky attacking someone who got a little too greedy with an unattended Metanox, or getting out of W space and seeing a reagent skyhook ripe for a little raiding. Yeah.
Boom, Oki. Exactly what you were just talking about. In particular, these systems are going to be great for a wormhole group to connect to a nullsec pocket, go in, hit it, steal all the reagents, and bring it back so that way they can have their own Metanox that they defend in their wormhole, right? That's perfect. That is such a realistic scenario that I'm kind of excited about it, honestly, because moon mining in wormhole space is not worth it. But if you could just drop a structure that does it passively, as long as you can raid enough reagents to do it, that seems pretty fun and will help facilitate more reactions within the wormhole.
That's what I'm excited about.
There is so much
too.
I'm looking forward to. Redefining what makes a system valuable, giving you exciting new tools to transform your space the way you want to, and of course adding more conflict drivers for groups of all sizes. We can't wait to see what you do with them.
What's got me the most excited about this is that this Sov rework is pretty much different than all of the previous Sov reworks, right? Anytime you rework a feature, you're trying to fix the problems that currently exist, right? In the original one, you have the posses, and the pos spam and the power of like individual groups to be able to just defend themselves against any sort of assault by having it be such a grind to go through an individual system was a big problem. Enter the idea of the territorial blockade units and Dominion Sov, right? Dominion Sov kind of opened up the gate a little bit and iterated on a more cleaner way of establishing Sov, but it still had the problem that Apex forces were able to defend every single decision point with massive fleets of Apex fighters, making it so that little guys could not get an edge in, right? Enter Aegis Sov, or as some people like to call it, Fozzie Sov. Fozzie Sov sought to spread the fights out over sovereignty, noting that the ownership of sovereignty should be a consequence of living in the space rather than a consequence of military might in Apex fights, right? The ability to have specific structures. Structures are Apex fights, right? They're single point Apex fights, but sovereignty itself spreads out over the course of the entire constellation, which allows skirmishy groups to be a thorn in the side of others during those fights, right? And this has succeeded on many different occasions of creating more interesting sovereignty battles. But more importantly, it made it so that sovereignty did, in fact, effectively properly represent those who actually lived in their space and operated in it, with the exception of the fact that TCUs don't matter. But let's not go into that. So then what is Equinox trying to fix? Rather than trying to fix necessarily how we're arguing over sovereignty, which we still have not gotten the details of necessarily, what we're looking at here is a fix as to what sovereignty is. What does it mean to live in sovereign space? What kind of jobs and responsibilities there are from the bottom up? You want to live in an empire? Fine, live in an empire. You know what an empire needs? An empire needs city planning. An empire needs management. An empire needs logistics. An empire needs, constant surveillance against outside threats. An empire needs my son to let me continue my presentation. No, seriously. All right. So, anywho, as I was saying, yeah, SimCity in space. You want an empire? You get to have an empire with all of the pros and cons that means. In addition to that, we get the new anomalies with the new escalations in order to get officers and new capital ratting and other sites like that. So that way it's less about just grinding the same anomalies over and over and over again, and more about what is happening in my empire and where is our stuff set up. You can have a system that is your pirate ratting system that has all of the upgrades for that, but it still needs to be supplied from other systems, and it just creates a lot of different opportunities and responsibilities within nullsec to make it much more than just like there's a command and then there's a whole bunch of like underlings that are ratting or mining or just doing stuff randomly. I'm looking forward to having something else to mine in Null than Arcanor and Bistot. The expansion will require null blocks to have a very big presence in their space, so many new attack vectors coming that with really test defense responses. Expect the large null blocks to shrink. Yeah, so like let's go back to what Oki was saying in the raids, right? So the larger your society is, the more attack vectors there are. So with more skyhooks, you actually, like any given skyhook can come under attack, and as you spread yourself thin, you may or may not respond to any given attack, right? So if a guy comes in and raids your ESS, you have a couple of ratters that get mad, right? And then you kind of move on. If someone comes and raids your skyhook, you can probably compensate. But remember, this is all infrastructure. These are pieces going to other pieces. If they attack if enough of your sites get attacked, if you allow enough raids to happen, suddenly you're not going to have enough people or power or reagents to do everything you want to do. Your empire will literally break down if you do not control your own space. That's cool, right? The biggest thing was when, we have farms and fields, which was a big piece of the change to the current sovereignty, and we saw farms and fields play out a lot in World War B2, where the Imperium had their fortified castle of 1DQ in its home constellation, and its fields on the outside that were allowed to be burned. And while they sieged the castle and it did starve them out to a certain extent, the castle held. It was the fields that got burned, right? The barbarians raised the fields, but that's kind of where that ends. They couldn't literally siege 1DQ, because the only thing they could do is try to deny them content. And we live in a video game where people can log into a different video game, or they can log into a different character on the same video game. So it didn't really affect the goons that much in their actual operations. The siege didn't actually do anything. But what now if you rely on all of those other systems to fuel 1DQ, right? Like, you can actually begin to sabotage and undermine people's infrastructure. You can send guerrilla warfare fighters in and continually disrupt their systems in order to try to shut down their infrastructure. And like I said, when we look at the upgrades and stuff, we see sinusoidal suppression. What happens when this system doesn't have enough power or reagents to power its sinusoidal suppression? You no longer have to get a person in the system itself to blow up the Sino jammer that they can just online a new one. Oh, look, all I have to do is starve the system out. I'm looking forward to it, guys. Let's see. Is there anything else that we should look into on this? We can see more videos of the orbital skyhook in action. The Sovereignty Hub, which this thing is gorgeous, by the way. And one of the things I find really interesting about this Sovereignty Hub, there was one clip of it that I wanted to bring attention to. Is it here or is it somewhere else? There's a lot going on visually on these on this Sovereignty Hub, and I'm interested to see what kind of things that they end up doing with it. Let me see. Is it on here or is it not? No, it's in the video. Where is it?
Behind the introduction of the
This is what I'm very curious about, right? Like, so if this thing isn't dockable, what are these? Are these monitoring corporation projects or alliance projects? Why are there posters of different mineral types? Are these the iHub? Ah, is this the upgrade? Is this the upgrade telling us what minerals are going to be available in that system? That's actually pretty likely. So somebody set it to be like, okay, well, these are the mineral types that we want to get. Here we unlocked 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever it is, right? That seems likely. That's pretty cool. So again, I really love the idea more than anything that we're going to be able to visually look at the sovereignty hubs and identify what upgrades are part of it, potentially. And I think that that's about it for what we've learned. So she was right about the UI. I am so engaged and compelled by this UI. No, it's true. It is a nice UI. I will give them that. This thing is so cool looking, though. Anyway. Yeah. So, is there anything I've missed? Is this everything you've ever wanted as a nullsecker? If there's anything that you feel maybe missed out on, I do find it interesting that, like, I don't think it's going to be such that you have to rat so much anymore. But there is a big question about how sovereignty will be mediated with these new sovereignty over, structures. Do you just simply blow up? You notice how they talked about the timer. Hold on a second. Let's actually listen to the beginning of this again.
And how useful the system is strategically. The Upwell consortium has been a huge part of nullsec since the introduction of citadels in 2016. Now, we're proud to be presenting the next steps in transforming nullsec from a space you live into a home, providing more tools and content to allow the inhabitants to shape the space to their more customization options, features. The orbital skyhook. With the Equinox suite, Upwell is introducing major new structures: the orbital skyhook, sovereignty hub, and Metanox moondrill.
From a UI perspective, our focus is on enhancing in-space interactions, reducing friction, and ensuring smooth usability when engaging with these structures. With dedicated in-space UI, you can seamlessly deposit fuel and hack objectives, all while accessing crucial information.
Well, there is nullsec gas. Yeah, well, no, I don't know if it's no more searching, but yes, it can make gas a lot easier to find, or at least more common in that system.
Information at a glance.
Intosis is not getting changed, confirmed from CSM members. So do you intosis the structure then? Like, how does the intosis relate to this? That's what I'm asking.
The streamlined interface will empower you to interact with the structures effortlessly.
Workforce, reagents. There will be planet archetypes that can only produce that type of resource. This means that some systems with an abundance of one type.
Because he talks about when they talk about whether or not the structures can be destroyed, right? I don't know, man. Relates to sovereignty of the space, like the sovereignty system is not changed to conquer systems. Yeah, but the sovereignty system. So, like right now, you would intosis the iHub and the TCU. So, would you intosis this thing then? Okay, sovereignty hub is intosised, and that starts just a normal sovereignty game. Got it. What about like strategic index and the other indices and how they influence sovereignty? Is that going to be moved over to the iHub upgrades, or I mean the sovereignty hub upgrades, or like are there specific sovereignty upgrades that make things more defensible when it comes to solve for that system? And thank you very much, Jay, for that information. I'm not just dismissing you. It only Sutonio is CCP. So I'm not, if he wants to answer these questions, ADM is not going away. Just the upgrades don't require them anymore. Okay. So got it. So now I no longer have to rat to military index 5 in order to upgrade the pirates that spawn. That's based on the sovereignty hub. But The fact that I have ratted it to ADM 5, the military index to 5 in that system will make that system more defensible in sovereignty fights. Is that what I understand? Do passive drills contribute to industry ADM? Oh, God, these are good questions. Right. So that's my understanding. Okay, Setonia says yes. Okay, so that's the way it works. Now ADM, which defends your sovereignty, is a result of work. So you may actually want to have these upgrades in systems just so you can rat enough to have your high ADMs. Hopefully they'll, I mean, it sounds like for now. So, I mean, this could be a transition. They've also said that this is part 1. So that makes it fine. Yeah, is the regular source of officer spawns going away? Is this going to be the new exclusive way of getting officers, or is this just going to be an additional way of getting officers? That's a good question. That is a question I still have. But I think to wrap things up, my son has actually done a really good job, so I'm going to have him come in here and say hi to everybody while we wrap things up for the day. We have any other questions, comments, concerns? I think that's all I have for you today. 1 second. Normal officers are not changed. Got it. Sweet. Awesome. So this is just an additional vector for officers. Good call. Come on, sit down. Oh, all right. So, hey, Zed, how you doing?
You good?
You stayed home, but then we worked on something today, and you got some science stuff done, huh?
Yeah.
That's good. And you got to play a little bit of Eve, huh?
Yeah.
What'd you think?
I feel like Eve is a very fun game.
And
I've learned how to do like the battle mechanics. Well, I've really only learned to press F1 over and over again.
That's pretty much the battle mechanics, yeah. What about hacking? Did you do the hacking last week?
Yeah, I actually did.
So are we gonna get
Paid
to
actor? I'm not being paid right now to act this.
So are we gonna get finally some videos of you trying out Eve?
Maybe.
Maybe. All right, man. As the general concerns that this will become a game of too prolific argument, the Metanox final, so they can further consolidate their hold of passive income. I don't know, Lorelei. It sounds like they're going to be pretty vulnerable. So he's better than the average nullsec line member already. Oh, snap. That's right. He can hit F1. Anything else to say to people? You've been trying to get everybody's attention all day. I saw it. So now you're out here.
I've just been trying to watch from a different view.
Oh, okay. You wanted a backstage pass, as it were?
Yeah.
You got a new watch. Yep, he's got a smartwatch now. I can keep track of him. All right.
And I can keep track of him by messaging him.
That's true. All right. But tomorrow you're going to school. But for today, I think that about does it for both of us. I've been Ashtarothi, and this is
Little Ash.
Little Ash. Thank you all for watching. Thank you to all you supporters, especially Sheesh and Bad Boy Smooth, right? Yes. And all of you guys who hung out and liked, commented, and shared the stream. I've been Ashtarothi, the voice of New Eden. And until next time, I'll see you in space. 07Z. I don't know what's going on either. Let's see this.
Bring on. 'Cause 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 city.